Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
A fake alien invasion, aka Project Bluebeam. Now, I know this one is a stretch. I'm just talking about something that I read about, and it's this thing called Project Bluebeam. And the idea behind it is it occurs in 4 stages. First, it's a controversy with the Russians. The second stage is a controversy with terrorists, aka Al-Qaeda and ISIS. The third stage is conflicts with third world countries, aka North Korea. And then finally, the 4th stage is the fake alien invasion. Now that's Project Bluebeam.
You think that was a suicide? That was a terrorist. Yeah, don't say it. It's on. You know it, right? I don't know, guy. Everything's fucked up.
9/11 became the mother of all news stories and completely changed the game for everyone.
Fear, panic, and strife were imprinted in the public consciousness. To what end? Not to go after Al-Qaeda, but rather to invade the sovereign nation of Iraq. Given such a drastically overt misstep on the part of a U.S. government led by an oil family, the question on some people's minds is whether or not this disaster was exploited, or worse, engineered. The Gulf of Tonkin in the Vietnam War, Chiang Kai-shek in the Korean War. False flag operations are nothing new. However, according to some, the ultimate card to play might be yet to come.
How do you grow the trillion-dollar military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned about into a $2 or $3 trillion program? You got to have a bigger enemy out there.
Von Braun's purpose in life during the last years of his life, his dying years, was to educate the public and decision makers about space-based weapons. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. In 1977, I was at a meeting in Fairchild Industries, and in that room were a lot of charts on the walls with enemies, identified enemies, names that people had never heard of, names like Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi. But we were talking then about terrorists, the potential terrorists. No one had ever talked about this before. And they continued the conversation about how they were going to antagonize these enemies, and that at some point there was going to be a war in the Gulf.
According to these theorists, after the military-industrial complex had its war against terrorism, the next enemy that Dr. von Braun identified on Earth would be third-world country fanatics. But with no more enemies left, the people would soon be taught to look to space.
The next enemy was asteroids. Now, at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids, we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over, during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, all of it is a lie.
99% of all the information out in the public on this subject is well-crafted disinformation designed to scare people to support the next phase in global warfare. And this kind of corruption is why the only things that are being made on this subject are things that redound to paranoia and fear in the military-industrial complex.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Yeah, it could be completely fake. I don't know. It's just an interesting idea. And the only reason why I bring it up is because I remember a couple months ago, CNN and Fox were showing a clip of these like fighter jets following a UFO or something. And it's really interesting. Whenever CNN, Fox, NBC, ABC, whenever they talk about stuff, I tend to always question it. Are they being genuine? Are they being truthful? And I feel like sometimes they're not always being truthful with us, and it's kind of strange for the news to be talking about aliens, because we've grown up with this idea that the existence of aliens is a ridiculous idea, but then like slowly this idea is coming about that maybe they are real, maybe they do exist, and it's like slowly coming out, kind of like this build-up for something big. And we see it in the movies, and we all have this idea of like, of what they look like. They're like these, they call them grays, like we all like have that programmed into our mind that that's what they look like. And it's like, why do we all have this same idea in our mind of what it looks like if like we've never seen them? Like I've never seen it in my life. I don't really know like if aliens are real or not. Like I'm kind of 50-50. Like yeah, there's probably a good chance that there's more than just us like on this world, but at the same time, like maybe it is just us. I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence. I haven't seen anything to show that there's more than just us, but that's not absolute. I'm open to the possibility of there being more. And it's just an interesting idea, and I think we should all be aware of what this Project Bluebeam is. Where it originated from was this scientist from Germany, a Nazi scientist, and he came over to the United States through Operation Paperclip. His name was Wernher von Braun. And now just watch the news, because when the news talks about aliens and everything, it's like, okay, are they being genuine, or is this a Hollywood? Is this Hollywood animation? Like, because nowadays when we see anything on the TV, on our screens, on the iPhone, it's hard to tell, like, is this actual real or is this fake? In this day and age, I feel like the only thing we can really trust is our own eyeballs. And the idea with this fake alien invasion, supposedly we already have the like anti-gravitational technology, like the ability to hover and everything, and technologically we should be beyond cars, we should be beyond gasoline and oil and everything. And because there's like this energy all around us, like the air, like there's energy in the air, and there's this one particular bug, it's like a beetle or something, and it's got like this anti-gravitational ability, and supposedly there was someone that built a machine that replicated this beetle's anti-gravitational abilities.
It's a man named Grebennikov from Russia. Grebennikov was kind of a non-conventional scientist. He was an entomologist, did a lot of work with bugs, entomology. And his favorite thing was to go out into the steppes of Russia and into the various outer hinterlands and camp out in the summers and study his favorite subject. And on one of these expeditions, he started seeing some weird effects. This is all explained in great detail on the AkiliNet site if you type in Grebennikov and his flying box or gravity platform. But anyhow, the result of this was to show that he found a certain bug that didn't fly, it levitated. And this was, he'd put this bug into a little vial or something, and he saw this vial jumping up off the lab table, jumping up and down. And of course this is patently impossible based on any type of normal physics. So he got into this, and he found out that the bug wings themselves were creating an anti-gravity phenomena under certain conditions. And of course what we have here, if you analyze, I think I found the bug. It's actually a beetle. And if you analyze this bug structure, you see a hexagonal pyramid structure array throughout the entire bottom wing of this bug. Turns out that beetles have two wings. The top wing is called a wing cover, And what the beetle does is it lifts this wing cover up, and then it flips out its lower wings, or inner wings. Now the bug cover protects the inner wings, but when it gets excited or something, it flips these other wings out, and it flaps these other wings, and the inner wings flap a little, and this beetle goes gyrating around. They can't fly very good, but they sure levitate great, I guess. And anyway, he took a whole bunch of these bug wings, and he glued them to like a Venetia blind structure, and he put it into a little platform he built. So they were all, these bug wings were all covered in here. And he used I theorize he used the wing covers as well as the inner wing itself. There's also a kind of a handlebar on this thing with some controls. You can see the thing a little better here in detail. The controls, I think, had to be manipulated continuously and probably vibrated to create the same action that the bug was doing. There was also down at the base some kind of a lever, which I suspect controlled the amount of lift he was getting out of this thing. Anyway, Grebennikov claimed that he could fly this thing or levitate it, and it would go around at almost 1,000 miles an hour. Now you ask, how can that happen? You know, well, he said that there was an energy field that built up around this thing due to this gravity field building up in the platform, and by this thing building up, it built out a force field that basically surrounded him and protected him from the local environment. So even though he was flying at 1,000 miles an hour, you could go, you know, you could be wearing your Sunday best suit and not get it flutter a bit at 1,000 miles an hour. I'm not sure I'd want to stand on something going 1,000 miles an hour that's 2 feet square. But this picture here shows him sitting on the ground, and these pictures are much better if you get on the KeelyNet site. This is the platform with him on it about 3 to 6 feet above the ground, because here's the shadow here down below. Now you could say this is all faked, but if you get into the other things that he did with shape, they almost mirror the stuff that I discovered, and it proves, I guess, that there's either two crazy people in the world, or there's two people that have found the same discoveries. So I think that this is a valid phenomenon, and I'll show you why. Next slide is a micrograph that I took of a beetle inner wing. This is at 100x. If you look closely at this thing, you can see rows of bumps all along the bottom of this wing, each row is staggered from the next row next to it, and this is all over the surface of the bottom of the wing. Now, I don't know of any aerodynamic surface that has bumps all over the bottom to help it fly better. If you blow this up to 430x, you can start to see some of this microstructure of the cells that form where these bumps are. The next slide, at 970x, you start to see what these bumps that stick up are. They're hairs, look like hairs or fibers that grow out of the center of these hexagonal cells. And of course, this harkens back to my basic shape power discovery, is that each one of these, because of their shape going down to a point, is creating a magnetic field. And remember, a magnetic field is a rotating piece of vortex in the ether.
And supposedly, like, the idea is like aliens are real and they got these UFOs, or we just make up these flying saucer things and we have the technology to make them anti-gravitational, and so when they do a fake alien invasion, it's going to be really believable, because like we'll see it in the sky and it'll be just like everything we saw in the movies, everything we've seen in the books, everything we've seen in the news, just like this idea of flying saucers, anti-gravitational, able to suck people up and everything. If we already have that technology, it'd be really easy to replicate a fake alien invasion. And it's just an interesting idea, because like if we do have anti-gravitational technology, like that's such a disservice to humanity for us to still be using cars, and we should be far beyond that, so much far progressed as a society. Well, I don't know. I've never seen any anti-gravitational thing, so I don't know if it's real or not. But this whole thing is speculative. I don't really know, but it's an interesting idea. I think it's good to keep in the back of our brain that maybe it's real. So yeah, this is Tim, just talking about stuff. The love in me is the love in you. The light in me is the light in you. The peacefulness in me is the peacefulness in you. The joy in me is the joy in you. The truth seeker in me is the truth seeker in you. The happiness and fulfillment in me is the fulfillment and happiness in you. We are one and the same. I am one with you and you are one with me. I love y'all. Namaste.